We're in Perek Gimel. We said we're going to skip halacha hey. It's a complicated halacha. It's a machlekes the Rambam and the Ravid. At any rate, halacha vav. The following people have no share in the world to come. Ella, what does it mean not to have a share in the world to come? Nechrosim va'oivdim, they're completely wiped out. They'll never be heard from again. V'nidoinim al goydol rishon v'chatasam, la'olam ulol me'olam. That's a scary lashon. The Rambam didn't make it up, as he doesn't make anything up, really. They are nidain, they are judged eternally. The same way that those who get into Olam Haba, they have eternal reward. Those who never make it to Olam Haba, they're never heard of again, except to the fact that they're nechrosim, oivdim, v'nidoinim. They're constantly being judged and rejudged for what they've done eternally. Who are these people that don't have a share in the world to come? Haminim. These are general categories. The Rambam's going to then break down these categories. So I'm going to read them quickly. Minim, amin, apikursim, kaifrim b'Torah, those who deny the Torah. Now, if you remember, I'm going to pause here for a minute. We read in Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam said in Hilchos Malachim that a person that doesn't believe that Mashiach is coming, or he believes Mashiach is coming, but eina machakel b'yasoi, he's not eagerly waiting for Mashiach to come, and we explained then in Shir what eagerly waiting means. If he's not eagerly waiting, the Rambam there in Hilchos Malachim says he's a kaifa b'Torah, a person who doesn't believe Mashiach is coming, and we'll see it on the next line here. A person that doesn't believe Mashiach is coming, or believes Mashiach is coming, but he's not waiting for him to come. He's not in a matziv of machaka. He's desperately waiting for Mashiach to come. He's the kaifa b'Torah, the Rambam says. And here the Rambam says a kaifa b'Torah has no chelik in Olam Haba. Those who deny Tchias HaMesim, Ubias HaGoyel, and those who deny Mashiach, both aspects. You deny Mashiach or you're not waiting for Mashiach. Hamumorim machtir rabim v'posh midach etziba v'oisa v'eres biad rom v'farhesik yirakim v'amoisim natil ema tziba shaloshim shemaim v'shoyf cheitamim u'bale lashon hara. We're not talking about someone who talks lashon hara. We're talking about, the Rambam says, Baalei Lashon Hara, people who sort of have they're preoccupied. A good portion of their day is just passing around gossip about other people. They're gossipers. A Baal Lashon Hara has no share in the world to come. So now the Rambam is going to break it down. There are 5 people that fall under the category of a min. And if you're a min means a species. It means you're no longer a Jewish species. You're now left the Jewish species, which the Rambam is going to explain later, and you're a min. You're some kind of other species. We have in Parshas Bereshis the word lemino. Things were created based upon species. A person that believes or disbelieves in the following things, these 5 things, he is categorized as a min. He has no share in the world to come. Someone that says that there is no God, or he says there is a God, but God is not running the world. Either of those, that's one category. Either of those people is a min, has no chelik in Olam Haba. There's no God, or there's a God, but he's not running the world anymore. Amen. Someone that says there is a God, and God is supervising the world, but there are a couple of gods. There's the God of the good and the God of the bad, and the God of night and the God of day, and the God of love and the God of hate. Min, he has no share in the world to come. This is where we get to the interesting piece of the Rambam about corporeality. Does God have a physical body? A person says there's only one God, and that one God runs the world. but he has a physical body, and he has some kind of tamuna. He has some kind of physical appearance. He is a min, and he has no share in the world to come. We'll come back to this in a moment. There's a very interesting comment by the Ravad here. Or someone says, yes, God is this God, and there's only one God, and he runs the world, and he has no body, but he's not the first thing that happened here. We call this kadmus ha'olam. The Greek philosophers held that there were things here before God. There were things that they called, the Ravad explains, there were things called toyu, voyu, choshech, mayim, and God came along and found these pre-existing elements. There was all these things, toyu and voyu and choshech and mayim, and God found them, and he created these things, meaning that these things were here before God. If you believe that, min no chelik in olam haba. V'chein ha'oved kochav o mazel v'zulaso k'dei lios melitz beino ve'mibon ha'olamim. If someone worships a star or something in the horoscope, in order for that thing to be an intermediary between himself and God, intermediaries worship means that you are a min, and you have no share in the world to come. There are no intermediaries to which you are to give any independent power to. You pray directly to God. We don't pray to dead people. We pray only to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And the Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim, tells us in more than one place, including in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah, when a person goes to the kever of Gedolim, you're not davening to any gadol. He's dead. That's why he's in the ground. He went into the ground because of, even if he never did Navera, we learned the Gemara in Bava Basra on Daf Yud Zayin says that there were 5 people that never did Navera, and they died and they got buried. We don't daven to any dead person. That becomes an intermediary, becomes Navodah Zarah. The Chafetz Chaim, the Mishnah Berurah says, when you go to the kever, you're davening only to God, and you're davening to God for the sake of whatever it is, and the Baruch Shalom should send the Yeshua in the merit of a tzaddik. But you're not going to talk to the tzaddik. We don't talk to dead tzaddikim. We talk only to Rabbeinu Shalom. V'day lechakima b'rmiza. Everybody should understand what I'm talking about. Hopefully, we do not talk to dead people, even if they're great people. We talk only to the Rabbeinu Shalom. And anyone that uses anything to be an intermediary between him and God, he is a min, and he has no share in the world to come. Okay, now the Rambam said that if someone says, I believe in God, and he's only one, and he runs the world, but he has some kind of body to him, he's a man, no share in the world to come. To which the Ravad says at the bottom of the place, Amar Avram, Lama Kara Lezemin. Why is someone who believes that God, he believes there's only one God and God supervises the world and God created the world, but he's got a body? Why does the Rambam consider such a person to be a min? And here the Ravad says, a question if he even said this, according to the Kesef Mishnah, it's a misprint. I've mentioned many times that the Ravad talks sometimes very harshly against the Rambam. When he wants to disagree with the Rambam, sometimes the Ravad pushes the foot down on the gas, and he says some very harsh things about the Rambam. But this is beyond the pale here. And the Kesef Mishnah steps in here and says, this is beyond the pale, and the Ravad would have never said such a thing. And in fact, the Kesef Mishnah found in the Sefer HaIkarim something very similar to the words of the Ravad, but much more gentle than the Ravad. The way we have the Ravad written is, Kama gedolim v'tovim mimenu holchu b'zua machshava. There were much greater people than the Rambam that believed that God has a body. So why is the Rambam saying that if you believe God has a body, you're a min and have no share in the world to come? So the Rambam says there are much greater people than the Rambam that thought that God has a body. Who are these great people that he's talking about? People greater than the Rambam that thought that God has a body. But that's how we have the Raavad printed. And the Raavad now says, "Lefi mashiro b'mekrois, v'yoysim mashiro b'divrei agodas hamshavshis esadeyos." These things can happen. Good people can learn psukim, and without good rabbis, the pasuk says that God took us out of Mitzrayim with an outstretched hand, outstretched arm and a powerful hand, and God spoke to Moshe, and God got angry, and God got this. Sounds like God has a body. So a person reads the psukim, and he made a mistake. He read the psukim and thinks that God has a body, the Raavad says. So why does the Rambam make him into a min? He has no chelik in the Olam Haba. Where does this come from, the Raavad says? But this is the Shita. This is the Rambam Shita. And the Raavad disagrees with the Shita with this very harsh, strange, must be a misprint. Well, Maisa, what are the Rambam and the Raavad arguing about? They're arguing about a very big principle in understanding Yiddishkeit. According to a Reb Chaim Brisker that I heard from Rabbi Feldman, Zechron Tzadik Livrocha in Baltimore, and I heard it from other people as well. And it could be that Reb Elchanan Wasserman, Hashem Yimkan Damai, also talks about this. Elokim also, so Adam Yosher, it says in Koheles, God made man straight. The fact that man turned himself upside down and inside out is the work of man. The fact that we've made ourselves half Meshuggah is because we made ourselves half Meshuggah. But Elokim also, so Adam Yosher, God made man straight, and then he ate from the Eitz Hadas Tovra, and he brought into his body Mishagas. The Rambam holds that a person is, al-pi Jewish teva, quote unquote, born with a seichel yasher. A yid, unless he corrupts his hard drive, is going to understand that God has no body. He's going to understand that when you read the psukim, God doesn't have a hand. It just means that God punished. He's going to understand this because the Yiddish and the Shema in him is programmed to think like a Yid. And when you think like a Yid, you think like a Yid. And if all of a sudden you get this idea that God has a body, is because you self-corrupted yourself. There are things that you've done, books that you've read, lectures that you've gone to, etc., etc. You've listened to people and you've read things that have self-corrupted you. And now you think that God has a body. You became a min because you changed your natural setting, which is a proper hashkaf. Whereas the Raavad holds that that's not necessarily true, that a person doesn't necessarily self-corrupt. A person can be an ish yashar and make these kind of fundamental mistakes in hashkaf. We're not talking about he made a mistake, can I use the peeler on Shabbos or not use the peeler on Shabbos. We're talking about a fundamental mistake. God has a body. The Raavad holds these fundamental mistakes are possible. The Rambam holds that these fundamental mistakes are not possible. And when these fundamental mistakes occur in hashkafa, a person becomes a min and ein lo chelek l'olam haba. So if you remember yesterday, we learned the Rambam. The Rambam said not only do you have to do tshuva from things that you've done and do tshuva for things that you didn't do that you should have done, the Rambam is now teaching us. Remember the Rambam said yesterday, you also have to do tshuva from the way you think. And now the Rambam is introducing to us different ways that people think that require tshuva. You have to cleanse your mind from all these kind of thoughts. God is more than one, chas v'shalom, or God created the world, but he's not running the world. Or I have a medium between me and God. My Rebbe is my medium between me and God. My Rosh Hashiva is the medium between me and God. There is no medium. Nothing. The Baal Shem Tov wrote, and it's brought down in the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. The Baal Shem Tov told people, don't come to Mezhvish for Rosh Hashanah. Stay home and daven in your homes, daven in your local community minyanim. Because people that come to Mezhvish think that I'm going to daven for them. They're davening and they think that through me, I'm gonna reach the Bar Shalom. I'm telling you, that's not gonna happen. And everybody who thinks that way, stay home and daven by yourself, for yourself, directly to the Bar Shalom. It's brought down and told us Yaakov Yos. Of course, a throng of people came to Meshvish, but there was a throng of people that were on a certain madrega that understood they wanted to daven with the Baal Shem Tov, not through the Baal Shem Tov. Through the Baal Shem Tov, you're in. And as Rosh Hashanah is coming before us, we need to forget about all these intermediaries that we have and stop thinking about the intermediaries and talking directly to the Rebbeinu Shalom only. All you need Yeshua Shav Yeshuas, all you need Refuah Shav Refuas, all you need Nechama Shav Nechamas, all you need Brach Shav Brachas. Yeshua's Refuas, Nechamas, and Brachas only come through Rebbeinu Shalom because he's the Echad Yachad Umiyuchad. There's no other way it can happen in the world. There's no other way that Corona is ever going to leave except the way it came, through the Rebbeinu Shalom and doing the Ratzon Hashem. All these things, Brachas, Yeshuas, Nechamas, Refuas, only come when he wants them to come, how he wants them to come, and through the people, the Shluchim he wants it to come through. There is no other way. Ein lanu amili shoin el avinu shabashamayim. Everybody should continue watching themselves. The mitzvah Jerusalem is calling to us. He's telling us, Yidalach nishmatem oidel nafshe seichem. Take care of your health. It's a mitzvah. You eat matzah on Pesach. People are very machmeh on matzah on Pesach. People are very machmeh on the lulav and the esrig. They take it to 3 off the esrig is okay. They take the lulav okay. And is the sukkah okay? And is my mezuzah okay? And am I allowed to do this on Shabbos? Can I do this on Shabbos? Can I do that on Shabbos? Nishmat Seichem is one of the 613 mitzvahs. Am I allowed to do this now? Should I be doing this now? What does it take to be careful and watch my neshama so that I can be healthy for greeting Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mher V'Yomeinu Amen? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. Everybody, please take care of yourself. We should remain healthy to continue learning our B'yas Goel Tzed B'mher V'Yomeinu.